this game of life. It's not a traditional game, and it has no players, no winning or losing, no decisions to make. It's a cellular automation, a grid of cells, and cells evolve over time, and they follow simple fixed rules. Those simple rules, they lead to complex, mesmerizing patterns. The game was conceived by a guy named John Conway. He was a British mathematician born in 1937, and he died just 5 years ago in 2020. He was from Liverpool in England, and he loved recreational math, and he believed mathematics should be beautiful and fun. He created the game of life in 1970 while he was at Cambridge University, and he tried to find answers to the central question: can simple rules create complex behavior? And can we see something like life emerge from mathematics? He tried many different rule variations, and he tested them on a Go board with counters, and he was looking for balance. It shouldn't be too static so that everything would die or freeze, but it also should not be too chaotic. He was looking for the Goldilocks zone of complexity. So how does the game work? It plays out on an infinite 2D grid. Now, for practical reasons, the grid would of course be not infinite, and each cell on the grid has two states, two possible states, either alive or it's dead, and each cell has 8 neighbors: the top, the bottom, to the left, right, and 4 diagonal neighbors. And there are 4 rules to the game. Rule number 1: underpopulation. Any live cell with fewer than 2 live neighbors will die. It dies of isolation. It does not have enough community to survive. So a single cell alone dies, or a cell with only 1 neighbor dies. Rule number 2: survival. Any live cell with 2 or 3 live neighbors stays alive in a stable and healthy environment. So a cell with 2 neighbors survives, and a cell with 3 neighbors survives. Rule number 3: overpopulation. Any live cell with more than 3 live neighbors dies. It dies from overcrowding. This is supposed to simulate too much competition So a cell with 4 neighbors dies, and a cell with even more than 4 neighbors dies as well. Rule number 4. Reproduction. Any dead cell with exactly 3 live neighbors becomes alive. Birth happens with exactly 3 neighbors, not 2, not 4. It must be exactly 3 neighbors. This is how new life emerges in the game of life. So an empty cell surrounded by exactly 3 live cells becomes alive. Now, how do you actually play this out? All the cells must be updated at the same time, not one at a time. You count all neighbors first and then apply all changes at once. The current generations determines the next generation. The process repeats forever. Generation 1, Generation 2, Generation 3. And there's no randomness in this. It's completely deterministic. And the same starting patterns always produce the same result. So why these specific rules? It's a balance of creation and destruction. 2 to 3 neighbors, stable. These specific numbers create interesting behavior. Other numbers would be too static or too chaotic. These create the edge of chaos. There are some interesting patterns that have been observed in the game of life. The pattern category 1 contains still lives. Those are stable forever. They never change from generation to generation. They are perfectly balanced. Every cell survives the rules. Every cell has exactly 2 or 3 neighbors. And no dead cell has exactly 3 neighbors. This prevents reproduction. The pattern is locked in, it cannot grow or shrink. So there's the block, a 2 by 2 square. It's the simplest possible still life. It's 4 cells in a square, and each cell has exactly 3 neighbors, the 3 other cells. So rule number 2 applies. They all survive. An empty cell around it, they have only 2 neighbors, so they cannot come alive. It's perfect symmetry and balance. Then there's the beehive. It's 6 cells in an oval shape. it survives. And dead cells inside have more than 4 neighbors, so they stay dead. And dead cells outside have 1 or 2 neighbors, so they stay dead. This shape kind of resembles natural structures. Then there is the loaf, 7 cells in an asymmetric pattern. It has a hollow corner, and it's a bit more complex than the beehive, but it's the same principle. Each live cell has 2 or 3 neighbors, and the hollow prevents overpopulation. It shows that stability doesn't require symmetry. Then there is the boat. 5 cells in a boat-like shape, small but stable. The corner cell has exactly 2 neighbors, and the other cells have 2 to 3 neighbors each. Then there is the pattern category 2, the oscillators. Those are rhythmic patterns. They repeat after a certain number of generations. Cells die and are reborn in cycles, and the pattern as a whole returns to the original state. And it's like a breathing or a heartbeat. One of the oscillators is the blinker. It's just 3 cells in a row, and the middle cell has 2 neighbors, so it survives. The end cells have only 1 neighbor, so they die. And cells above and below the middle cell have exactly 3, so they come alive. And then the second generation is a vertical line of 3 cells, and the same logic applies again, and it flips back to its original state. So the blinker flips back and forth between a horizontal bar and a vertical bar. Then there's the toad. It's 6 cells in 2 rows, and the center cells die from overpopulation, and new cells are born in the gaps. And then it flips back, and it looks kind of like a toad swimming. Then there's the beacon. 8 cells forming 2 blocks, and the cells in the middle oscillate. First, they have 4 neighbors, so they die. Then they are reborn with exactly 3 neighbors, and it looks like a blinking light. Then there's the pulsar. In my opinion, the most beautiful of the oscillators. It's 48 cells in a beautiful symmetric pattern, and groups of cells pulse outward and inward, and it takes 3 generations to return to the start, so it's more complex rhythm than the other ones, and it's visually stunning like a breathing star. Then there is pattern category 3, the spaceships. Those are patterns that shift position while maintaining their shape. So it looks like they are creating thrust in one direction. Cells die on one side and are born on the other side. So the pattern kind of walks across the grid. So the most famous of the spaceship is probably the glider. It's 5 cells in a specific configuration, and it moves diagonally. It takes 4 generations to move one diagonal cell. Generation 1 is the starting position. Generation 2, it rotates and shifts slightly. Generation 3, it rotates more. Generation 4 rotates again. Generation 5, it returns to the original shape, but it's moved now by one cell diagonally. Then there's the lightweight spaceship. It's 5 cells in a boat-like shape, and it moves horizontally to the left or to the right. And it also takes 4 generations to return to the original shape. And it has more cells than the glider, and can travel in straight lines. Then there are the middleweight and the heavyweight spaceships. They have even more cells, 6 or 7 cells, and they also have a period of 4 generations, and they can survive collisions better than the other patterns because they are larger. Then there's another category of patterns, the long evolution patterns. Those are usually small starting patterns that have an extremely long lifespan before they stabilize and become static patterns. So there's, for example, the R-pentomino or the R-pentomino. I have no idea how to say this, but it's 5 cells in the beginning, and it lasts for 1,103 generations, and it creates countless intermediate patterns, and it even spawns multiple gliders flying in all directions, and the final population is 116 stable cells. And this kind of shows how tiny seeds create complex patterns. is no central control, there is no director or blueprint, and it's kind of a metaphor for natural systems, like maybe ant colonies or flocks of birds, or even weather patterns or entire economies. And it also shows the unpredictability of those systems. You cannot predict the outcome without running the simulation. There is no shortcut to the process. We must let it play out to see where it leads, and small changes can have large effects. So you can move one cell and it can completely change the outcome. So this is also known as the butterfly effect, as you may know. It also can teach us something about life and death and balance, that ecosystems need balance. If they are too sparse, this can lead to extinction. If they are too dense, this leads to dying off. And if there's balance, then we have thriving patterns. So too much or too little leads to death. So there are actually applications in science for this. You can use it to model biological systems, population dynamics, or predator-prey relationships and disease spread. And you can understand pattern formation or try to understand it better. Maybe even how crystals grow, or just in general the self-organization in nature. So this is the game of life, created in 1970, and it's still captivating today, 50 years later. And new patterns are still being discovered, and there's even an active community online. It's just a simple grid holding infinite complexity. It shows us beauty in simplicity, just 4 rules, but infinite possibilities. And it shows the power of iteration, small steps repeated, and the accumulation creates complexity. I hope you liked this video.